My name is Daniel Sirwer. I'm a professor of conflict management at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and a scholar at the Middle East Institute. Somebody has to make sure that there are institutional fora in which any disagreements can be resolved, not just disagreements between ethnic groups, but between families, between groups that think somebody might have fought with ISIS and the former ISIS guys. There are lots of conflicts in post-war situations, and it's really vital that you have a governing structure for those conflicts, including some kind of city council, some kind of judicial mechanisms. The international community has hesitated to make commitments for reconstruction in Raqqa, and particularly the Americans have said they'll only clear mines and rubble. They won't do any nation building. So the creation of quasi-judicial mechanisms and governing structures is certainly nation building. Now, the Americans seem to be doing a little bit more of it than they admit, but it's really very difficult to see who else could be active there other than the regime. Well, I think somebody has to get more than that done. And that somebody, in the view of the Americans, is the governing council that they have put together. That's reasonable enough as far as it goes. But it's really very difficult to judge whether that governing council has any serious capability, whether it has finance, whether it has expertise, whether it has decision-making capacity. And I think nobody knows at the moment how this will get done. And vacuums are bad. If you leave a vacuum, somebody is going to fill it, and that somebody could be somebody you don't like. Tensions persist, conflicts persist. The question is what kinds of mechanisms you have to manage them. If somebody has taken my property and I want it back, but there's no mechanism by which that question can be fairly adjudicated, I may be tempted, especially if my family is starving and I need to plant some crops, I may be tempted to take it back. And that creates personal violence, but it also may aggravate ethnic strife. People certainly need water and electricity. They need the rubble and mines cleared. There's no doubt about that. But it's a mistake to ignore things like governance and justice. Justice seems very abstract. It conjures up the image of courtrooms with robed judges, but it's actually a very practical question. Who is going to decide whether that property is mine or his? And if I don't have a way of getting a legitimate decision on that subject, I may use force. And if I use force, I aggravate the situation. Even if I recover my property successfully, there'll be resentment on the other side. So you can get a spiral of violence in the post-war period that isn't organized military forces fighting with each other, maybe, but it is still very harmful. Revenge killings, property-related crimes that can ruin the post-war situation and ensure that nobody gets the peace dividend.